Some people believe power comes from money. Others believe it comes from titles, buildings, or influence, but real power only reveals itself when everything you paid for stops working. This is the story of a man who believed he owned safety and control, and the man he discarded without a second thought, who later became the only reason he survived. Marcus Red arrived at work every morning at exactly 5:40, long before the building filled with voices, heels clicking on marble floors, and the low hum of ambition. He came early not because anyone asked him to, and not because it earned him recognition, but because the city felt different before sunrise. In those quiet moments, danger revealed itself more honestly. Shadows behaved differently. People moved with intention instead of performance. Marcus learned early in his career that safety wasn't about reacting fast. It was about noticing what others ignored. Marcus had worked security for nearly 17 years. Not as a stepping stone, not as a temporary paycheck, but as a profession he took pride in. He wore his uniform neatly pressed every single day. His boots were polished even when no one looked down. His posture never changed, whether the lobby was empty or filled with executives who barely acknowledged him. He memorized schedules, faces, habits, and patterns. He knew which executive stayed late when his marriage was quietly unraveling, which assistant avoided elevators, because tight spaces made her chest feel like it was closing in, which janitor worked double shifts so his children wouldn't have to. Marcus didn't judge, and he didn't interfere. He protected. The building belonged to Holt Dynamics, a multinational technology and logistics corporation valued in the tens of billions. It was glass and steel, polished and imposing, designed to project success. At the center of it all was Jonathan Holt, founder, CEO, and public symbol of innovation. The media admired him. Investors trusted him. Interviews framed him as disciplined and decisive. Articles described him as self-made, though few mentioned the inherited advantages that smoothed his path. Inside the building, Holt was known differently. He was impatient. He disliked inefficiency, especially when it didn't directly serve his comfort. He believed systems mattered more than people, and numbers mattered more than nuance. Security to him was a cost center, something to be minimized, standardized, and largely ignored. Marcus was stationed near the private elevator, standing exactly where protocol required, far enough to allow space, close enough to respond instantly. Holt exited the elevator mid-conversation on his phone and abruptly stopped when he noticed Marcus. His irritation was immediate and visible. He asked loudly whether it was really necessary for someone to stand that close. Marcus responded calmly, explaining it was standard security positioning for executive movement. Holt laughed, shaking his head, and said it felt aggressive and unnecessary. The word aggressive landed heavily, not shouted, not explained, but understood. No one corrected him. No one questioned it. Marcus remained still, professional, silent. 2 weeks later, Marcus was called into human resources. There had been no warnings, no write-ups, no complaints. He was handed a termination notice, citing failure to align with company culture. No examples were provided. No discussion followed. 17 years of loyalty, discipline, and quiet competence ended in a short meeting with rehearsed language. Marcus read the paper carefully, folded it once, and asked a single question. Was there a safety concern? The HR manager hesitated before answering no, adding that the decision came from higher up. Marcus nodded. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He simply stood, adjusted his jacket, thanked them for their time, and left. He walked through the lobby one last time, his footsteps echoing against marble floors he had protected for nearly 2 decades. No one stopped him. Outside, the city moved as it always had. Traffic surged. Coffee shops opened. People hurried past, unaware that something meaningful had ended quietly behind glass doors. Marcus's life changed immediately. He had a mortgage that didn't care about corporate culture. He had a teenage daughter who needed stability, guidance, and hope. He had a mother whose medication was non-negotiable. Security work at his level was not easy to replace. Interviews came and went, often ending politely with phrases like overqualified or not the right fit. Some never called back. Marcus took night shifts guarding warehouses, construction sites, empty lots. The pay was lower, the hours longer, and the respect thinner, but he accepted it without complaint. He taught his daughter to do her homework at the kitchen table while he rested between shifts. He taught her one rule above all others: never let bitterness decide who you become. While Marcus struggled quietly, Jonathan Holt's world accelerated. Holt Dynamics prepared for its most ambitious expansion yet, involving private transport infrastructure tied to government contracts. Pressure increased. Protesters gathered outside the building. Online threats multiplied. Anonymous warnings came through emails and social media. Holt dismissed them all as noise. He cut costs aggressively, including security, believing risk could always be managed later. He rejected maintenance requests, delayed upgrades, and streamlined personnel. Efficiency mattered more than caution. One night, Holt stayed late at the office, far later than usual. The building was nearly empty, the energy different without the daytime performance of productivity. When the private elevator malfunctioned, Holt was forced to use the underground parking level. It was a level Marcus had warned about months earlier: poor lighting, limited exits, blind camera coverage. That report had been dismissed as unnecessary expense. As Holt stepped out of the elevator, the first blow came from behind, sudden, precise. He fell forward, pain tearing through his shoulder, disoriented and shocked. A voice demanded his wallet and phone. His phone was knocked from his hand before he could react. Footsteps echoed. Another figure appeared. This wasn't random violence. It was targeted. They dragged him deeper into the parking structure as panic replaced disbelief. Holt screamed, but no one came. Minutes later, the attackers vanished, leaving him injured and bleeding on cold concrete. He survived, but the fear stayed, the kind money cannot erase. At the hospital, Holt demanded answers: reports, footage, accountability. That was when the truth surfaced. The cameras near the elevator had been offline for weeks. A maintenance request had been filed months earlier by Marcus, read and personally denied by Holt to reduce operational costs. Silence filled the room. Later that night, Holt asked a question that stunned his team. He asked where Marcus Reed was. He no longer updated professional profiles and ignored unknown numbers. Eventually, Holt's assistant found him working an overnight warehouse shift. When told that Jonathan Holt wanted to see him, Marcus asked why. The answer came quietly. Holt needed him. Marcus didn't rush. He didn't refuse. He agreed to meet professionally on his own terms. When Holt saw Marcus enter the hospital room, something shifted. This was not the man he had dismissed. This was the man he had underestimated. Holt struggled to sit up and admitted he was wrong. He admitted his security failed because he failed. Marcus listened without interruption. When Holt asked for help, Marcus didn't lecture. He didn't seek revenge. He agreed to consult. Marcus redesigned the security infrastructure from the ground up. Not just cameras and protocols, but training, bias awareness, communication, and respect. He insisted on diversity not as charity, but as intelligence. Holt listened, truly listened for the first time. Holt Dynamics later became known not for profits, but for reform. Holt publicly acknowledged his failure and apologized without excuses. Marcus was offered a new role: Director of Safety and Human Integrity, a position created specifically for him. Marcus never celebrated revenge. He celebrated clarity. He told his daughter that power doesn't come from being seen, it comes from being necessary. Jonathan Holt learned that dignity is not optional, and respect is not cosmetic. Sometimes the person you silence is the one standing between you and disaster. This was not a story about a billionaire falling. It was a story about a man standing even after being pushed aside. Because real strength does not shout, it protects.